Even though I'm stunned by the nastiness and hypocrisy of journalists attacking opposition leader Peter Dutton for this week, saying that as Prime Minister he's going to fly one flag and not Labor's three, the Australian flag and two race flags. The Sydney Morning Herald has had hysterics saying that this red rag to a bull politics feeds off false division under the guise of unity. It says Dutton has shown callous disregard for community harmony, disgusting, divisive, short-term politics. And his political correspondent accuses Dutton of essentially racism, saying he's kicking down by turning the country's Indigenous people into the targets of a new culture war. And I've got to say, get these frauds a mirror. Joining me are Daniel Wild, Deputy Executive Director of the Institute of Public Affairs, and Garth Hamilton, a federal Liberal MP from Queensland. I mean, Daniel, the Sydney Morning Herald, isn't this the most extraordinary hypocrisy? Because it claims that Dutton wanting to fly just the Australian flag is false division under the guise of unity. Isn't flying three flags exactly that? Dividing us by race while still pretending, oh no, we're really uniting you. I mean, isn't that showing callous disregard for community harmony, three flags?
Of course it is, Andrew. It's hypocrisy, as you rightly say. What's been interesting to me is that no one really has defended the three flags. No one's actually explained why we need it as a community. They've just deflected and started to blame Peter Dutton and have a go at him. But it just underscores, I think, how important Peter Dutton's intervention into this debate has been. Don't underestimate how significant this is. We defeated the Voice last year. We've made very significant gains on Australia Day. And now we're seeing this support for flying the single flag. As you know, it's about sovereignty. A flag is a symbol of sovereignty, and having three flags dilutes that claim to sovereignty, which plays into the activist claim that sovereignty was never ceded. It's actually very extreme to have three different flags flying at Parliament and on official parliamentary business. So this is a very important intervention into the debate. And it's also just complete common sense. It's utterly uncontroversial among normal Australians around the country. The only areas where it's controversial is in, the boardrooms of the major cities and the editorial boards of the SMH and the other left-wing press, Andrew.
Well, I want to pick up on something you said, because I think you're absolutely right. There has been no serious debate about, there are people of principle who say it's not to kick down Aborigines, not to disrespect Aborigines, it's not to be racist, it's not to garner votes. I really seriously think a country is better off with one flag to unite everyone as equal citizens under the law. That's what I think. And I noticed, Garth, that what's marked here is that the Sydney Morning Herald didn't do any of that. It immediately attacked Dutton's motives, falsely in my view, claiming he's racist, is kicking down, is picking on Aborigines. No attempt to address any serious argument for flying just one flag and arguing against that.
Isn't it interesting they're running the exact same play as the Labor Party, thinking that they can just attack Peter Dutton and everyone's going to agree with them on every issue that they raise? They're out of touch here. Peter's absolutely right. Look, I think we have something that we should be proud of. Not only can they not justify why we need the three flags, but they won't address, I think, the fundamental issue. The flag represents our nation. We should be very proud of that. We should be instilling that pride in young people. And if you forgive me, Andrew, I've been giving these bin stickers out. Can you see that? How good does that look? I've been giving those out around my electorate. People put them on their bins to show their pride in their flag. Any of your viewers living in Groom who want one, reach out to me. Andrew, that's what we should be doing, telling our young people and Australians across the country, you can be proud of our country, you can be proud of our flag. It's a beautiful thing to stand in front of, and I'm glad Peter Dutton's doing just that.
But can I just ask something that Daniel just raised? Most of the Australians would find this utterly controversial. What about some of your colleagues? I think that you've got still a number of Liberals in there that would be very dubious about arguing for one flag instead of flying three.
Well, look, you may well be right. You may well be right. Isn't it great, though, that we've got a leader in Peter Dutton who's willing to say very clearly where he stands and where he'd like to see not just the party, but the nation head towards. And I think that's a process we can go through. One of the things I think we learned during the Voice campaign, Andrew, is that if we say what we believe and we say it openly and honestly and with decency, people are very open to that. They want leadership. They want someone to tell them that it's okay to feel the way they do. We're talking about very middle of the curve views on Australia and our flag. This isn't something that we should be afraid of. We should be very comfortable being proud of our flag.
And Daniel, I would suggest that looking for unity now is more essential than ever. I don't think I've known Australia to be this divided. And I've always thought, you leave it to people, they were inevitably going to, talk about their own differences. I've still got my Dutch clogs by the front door and all that kind of stuff. But it's the government's role to emphasise, to bring us in the end back together. There is something that unites us. We'll divide. The government's job is to unite. Is that not so?
Well, that's absolutely right, Andrew. This is a theme we've been returning to this year on your program, which is the balkanisation of our society, which we're seeing the worst elements of with the anti-Semitism across our streets and on our university campuses, the lack of leadership to deal with that in the political arena and in many areas of civil society. There's going to be new figures out tomorrow on migration. It's going to show that the government's commitment in the budget is going to be blown out of the water in terms of how many people they're bringing into this country. And there's no plan for how to integrate them. There's no economic plan and there's no cultural plan. Multiculturalism as an ideology of the government has failed because it's funding differences rather than trying to bring us together. That's why the flag is so important, and that's why January 26 is so important as our national day, to bring people together and to remind all Australians, whether you've been here for 1 minute or whether your ancestry goes back tens of thousands of years, that we are all united around our shared values of freedom, democracy, our way of life, tolerance and the fair go.
Let us hope,
and we need more of that from our political system and not less.
Daniel Wild, Gareth Hamilton, thank you very much to you both for all your work this year.